this is a better look at my back lawn. It's much smaller than the one. There's the big lawn over there, and this is not too difficult. We mow this one as well. It's not too difficult to mow, but now that it's not been mown for a little while, it's given us an opportunity to see what else is growing here. This stuff, this lovely yellow flowers here is called creeping buttercup, and you can tell that by mainly by the leaves. They're quite broad and they've got this whitish margin that you can just about see just next left and right of the front lobe of the leaves. Seems to be hairy as well. That's another thing. The flowers, again, what you can see here is, and this one shows it. This one shows it the difference between the male and female parts a bit better than the groundsel that we saw further back there. You can quite clearly see the, if I can just point it to this, you can just about see the male parts, the stamens, which bear all the pollen, and in the middle you can see the stigmas, which have the ovaries in them. Now, buttercups are a different family to the daisies. They do have a similar, well, they are a little bit similar in structure, but I don't think they're that closely related. I mean, there's quite a big patch of creeping buttercup. I think this is all creeping buttercup. There is another one called meadow buttercup, but its leaves would be broader, whereas you can see here it's quite broad. And if you're thinking that it looks narrow, when you actually see meadow buttercup and see just how sharp its leaves are, that's when you get your eye in for that level of detail. Another thing I'm going to show you is this plant here. Now, this is another relative of the daisy. This is called, they call this fox and cubs, which is quite an attractive plant. I'm not entirely sure if it may not be native, but you can see just how hairy its leaves are. I'm not entirely sure why they have hairs. I had thought that maybe it would make it difficult for insects to climb all about it and eat it. But you can see the head of the flowers. These haven't fully developed yet. I mean, not even this big red one. It should open out a lot more than this. But oh, and that was a bumblebee that just flew over my head. Will he let me? I do have to be a little bit cautious with bees, because I think this might be a white-tailed bumblebee, I think, because you can just about, never mind. If you replay that moment, you will be able to see that one of the stripes on the thorax is paler than the one in front. It's more like a lemon yellow, which does tell it apart from the buff-tailed bumblebee. The name white-tailed bumblebee is a little bit misleading, because the buff-tailed bumblebee workers also have it too, but that lemon yellow stripe is often quite indicative. I may have to check the footage to be sure that it is a white-tailed bumblebee, because there are buff-tailed bumblebees around. It's only the queens that have the buff tails. The workers have white tails. I'm not even sure if we could really call them tails. They're more like
bottoms. So here we have, this is called cow parsley, and it's a rather odd find to have in my lawn, because this is the first time I've ever actually found it growing in our lawn. I don't really consider it a lawn plant, but you often see it in road verges. It often crowds road verges along with the cocksfoot. This one's actually a member of the carrot family. As you can see, it's got quite this tough celery-like stem, and the leaves are pinnate and quite finely divided like that. I'm not entirely sure why they call it cow parsley. I don't know whether cows like it or not, but the flowers, they're quite intricate little things. They seem to have petals of different sizes, and they arise from what they call umbels. The stalks arise from one point like that, and then they spread out into all these lovely little flowers, and flies and various other insects absolutely love them. And it's often, if you want to get close to flies, like say this one for example, I'm not entirely sure what this one is, but if you want to get close to insects like this, it's a good idea to seek out plants like this, and you can get quite close to them, and they seem to be reasonably comfortable going about their business, and they can pretty much walk across the plant like it's all one platform. Now this one is native. This one is a smaller version of the giant hogweed and the common hogweed. It's related to the carrot family, and because the carrots that we eat, I think they're like a corm or some sort of storage organ that you get below the ground, but I don't think these ones are edible. I mean, I wouldn't try it. I definitely wouldn't. I mean, that's another thing. Never eat things that wild things that you're not sure what they are, and that goes for mushrooms as well, because some of them are quite toxic. Some of them will make you sick. So always be 100% certain if you're going to do stuff like that. Preferably do it with someone who knows about this kind of thing more than I do. So yeah, definitely don't go about eating things that you don't know what they are. You know, the golden rule is, if you're not sure, don't do it. Anyway, another thing I'm going to show you here is called, if I can, it's quite a small little thing, quite common, but easy to overlook. I only came to grips with this one relatively recently. This is called time-leaved speedwell, and they call it time-leaved presumably because its leaves are quite rounded, and you can see it like that. Ooh, did I take the flower off? Anyway, let me find another one. See the pedicel, which is the flower stalk. It's quite short, because there's another species that I've seen in other places called trailing speedwell, and it's got a very long pedicel. You know, much longer than the leaves adjacent to it. It's quite common, but you know, if you didn't know what you were looking for, it's something that, you know, you could easily walk past. I mean, I know I must have done several times. You know, I probably just don't remember. In here we have what we call, if any of you like mosses, I mean, this is a relatively new area for me, but I do know this one. This is called Rhytidiadelphis squarosus, or springy lawn moss, and it's quite common. I mean, you'll see that the leaves are
are quite sticky, outy, spiky, has a bit of a hairdo, and they often seem to curve downwards. Again, it's a very common moss. I mean, in some parts of my garden at least, there's more of this than there is grass in there. I mean, mosses are a very beautiful group as well. I've certainly had good times in other places in Scotland, like at Benay, where there's other kinds of mosses, some quite rare ones. There's one that's found only there called Northern Prongwort, which is quite a rare one. I could do another video, a different video about that one if you want. I mean, there's far more plants in the world than there are in my garden, but there's more here. You can see. I mean, if we imagine, you know, you're looking down in it, it could be quite easy to miss if you didn't know what you're looking for. But once you've got your eye in, it's not too difficult to identify. There are some mosses that are quite tricky, but that one is not tricky once you know what you're looking for. So this is a domestic house spider that I've just uncovered, or actually no, it's not a domestic house spider. It's no. So this is one of the Tegeneria species. It's called the giant house spider. That's what it's called. You do sometimes get it in houses. I've found this one simply by moving a large rock, and they're quite big. They're quite intimidating if you've never seen one before. But they're pretty cool though. I mean, they live in damp places, and one word of warning though, they can potentially, you know, not that they do this very often, and only if they're like seriously provoked, they can have a bite that can pierce human tissue. But you know, if that were to happen, there's no venom or anything. It's not an especially dangerous spider. In fact, in Britain we don't really have any dangerous spiders as such. There are some that can bite humans, but none of them are really venomous like you would in other parts of the world. So yeah, this one just disappeared. You know, probably just got bored of me talking. But there's another one here, a slightly smaller one. This one could be a male, because spider species often differ quite markedly in size depending on the gender. I think the one we looked at before was a female, and this one looks like a male, which is much smaller. Don't know if you can see that, but just in front of his, just behind his front legs, you can see what we call palps, or pedipalps as they're sometimes called. Well, that's more like the technical name. But in the male spiders usually have thicker. You made me jump there. I just lost track of where he is now. Well, he's retreated under further into the stone, but you get the idea. It's they differ in size depending on what gender they are. Females are usually bigger than the males, and some species have been known to eat the males. Oh, here he is again. I mean, if you've never looked for spiders before, you can always have a look in your house, because you know, they quite like warm places where there's plenty of prey and places to hide, you know, especially flies, but others will snack on various other insects. So as I was saying,
if you've never looked for spiders before, your house is a great place to start. But also in the garden, if you've got one, you know, especially if you look under stones or under trees, you can find spiders just about anywhere. Not all of them will be found in urban areas, of course. Some of them will be only be found in woodland. Some will. There's some that live near water. I think there's one that actually lives almost entirely in water. I think there's something like about 800 species in the UK, and about half of those are like little money web spiders. I forget the name. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that there's lots of things to look at, and if you've never known where to look for these things before, don't worry. It's never too late to start. There's often so much that people discover on a first time outing. So up here we have herring gull. It's not quite juvenile, this one. This one seems to be developing into its adult plumage. You can just about make out the grey at the top of its back there. It would be about maybe a second to third year calendar bird, probably more like a second. But you can see that a lot of its feathers are still juvenile, still have that greyish with the black spots. You know, these are herring gulls. These are one of the birds that we have quite commonly around our area in Aberdeenshire. They can be a bit difficult sometimes. I have been dive bombed by them, but they're very intelligent birds, quite remarkable when you get to know them. And it's one of several gull species that we have in our area, and they're often quite widely studied. I mean, some of them, especially in juvenile forms, are quite difficult to tell apart, and there's some experts in that dedicated solely to that field. It's a great area. He's wondering about whether he's going to leave. Oh, there he goes. So there you have it. I mean, it was good to get a bird in the actual video. I had tried to maybe find a blackbird or a starling, but those don't seem to be in a good enough position to film right now. And that pretty much concludes it for today. I mean, that's obviously not the only things that we have in our garden, but that's just a small selection to get your appetite going. And if you want to have more videos, you can do your bit by subscribing to my channel, Harris Brooker, and so that just about concludes it. I mean, it's good that we had a herring gull in our video, the first bird that I've had for one of my videos with me presenting. If you enjoyed what you saw today, you know, don't be afraid to subscribe, because with your support, you know, we can take this to bigger and better places than just my backyard. And I'll show you as much wildlife as I can with my knowledge. I hope what we saw today was educational and has perhaps inspired you to connect with nature a bit more. Don't forget to subscribe and like my videos, and you know, if you want to recommend them for friends and other people to see, you know, that's very welcome too. I mean, obviously that's not the only things that we have in the garden. That was just a small selection, but it's enough to whet the appetite at least. This is Harris Brooker signing off. I hope you have a very good day.